I have the certainty that no matter what happens, I will go forward and I will be successful ultimately. And so with that certainty, the mistakes and the failures don't scare me and don't affect me. I might have a bad day and be like, I just lost a bunch of money. I'm not happy about that. But I'm also, that's just part of the day.
All right, hey everyone, welcome to the Shaqir Show. I'm here with Mr. Roland Frasier. I am so excited to have this. I've been going around the world for the last 5 to 6 years, and I've spent more than $500,000 into my own education, training, mentorship. And now, on my next stage of my business growth, I'm finding the right mentors that's going to help me get to 9 figures. And so I've interviewed a handful. You've probably seen some of them. And today I'm so excited, Roland, because I've been wanting to do this podcast now for the last 9 to 12 months. And I just attended what I consider the most intensive 2-day mastermind event ever. So firstly, thank you so much, Roland.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for the 2-day intensive, because I've attended so many different events, but you've packed. Well, I was telling my friend Kieran next to me, I was saying this should have been like a 5-day event. And you could have probably done this over 5 or 7 days.
It's going to be 3 events going forward. It'll be 6 days, 3 2-day events.
Okay.
So, and there was lots of stuff we didn't even get to.
Yeah, and it was just absolutely intense. I've never experienced all of that. Well, I've never come across someone that has so much insights on leveraging, on growing, on scaling, on selling. So my first thing is, how on earth, what's been that progress for you to attain all of that wisdom and knowledge?
Well, 2 things before we start. First, I want to compliment you on your cool shoes.
Oh, thanks.
And then second, I was thinking, and the audience hopefully will support me in this, maybe you make this $1 million adventure. You give me $500,000 now. For the podcast, and then it's $1 million adventure. Even better, it's twice as good. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, what's the process to accumulating all the knowledge? Is making a tremendous number of mistakes, failing a tremendous number of times, and all kinds of difficult, painful lessons along with the joy and the successes. And I mentioned when you and I were talking earlier, I'm a voracious consumer of information. I think trying to network and get with as many smart people as you can and hang around with smart, successful people who are actually doing things that you can learn from is important, and always being hungry for knowledge that is then put into action.
And in terms of, obviously you made lots of mistakes. I got to compliment you on something else, which was, I've never seen a speaker have so much fun because it was almost like every other topic you covered, you went, ha ha ha. I was telling my wife, she goes, does he really laugh like that? I said, yeah, he's got a really weird laugh, and he really seems to enjoy what he's talking about. And so in terms of, we're talking about scaling. Obviously, this event was all about leverage, growth, scaling. When someone is starting out from, let's say, 0 to 6 figures, what would you say is the core skill that they need to develop? And what is the 1 to 2 mistakes that they make that you see entrepreneurs doing?
I think the biggest challenge that I see people doing is waiting to get ready, getting ready to get ready, right? Getting ready to do something as opposed to doing something. So it's easy to spend your time doing the easy things, like, especially when you're getting started, like designing a logo and getting your business cards and setting up your corporation or whatever. It's hard to actually get out and make a sale. And so I think that hard activity is the thing that you should do first. They do the easy stuff first, you should do the hard stuff first. Every day they say that you're in the best position to accomplish the most in the morning. Do the hard stuff in the morning, do the easy stuff in the evening. And same thing in your career. Do the hard stuff at the beginning, and then you can focus on the easy stuff. That to me is the first biggest mistake, and the second biggest mistake is being undercapitalized. That people go into business and they don't realize how many things that they think are going to go perfectly are not going to go perfectly, and it takes at least enough money to make things go to anticipate some of those failures that are bound to happen.
And so why is investing in oneself key? What's the significance, and why would you recommend someone should be investing in themselves when it comes to events and masterminds and leveraging people like yourself so that they can get ahead? Like, what would you say are the main benefits?
I think that the insights that you gain from talking to other people help you to multiply the speed at which you're able to develop, both as a business person and as a general human being, so much faster than if you have to do everything yourself. It's as if you had to invent and build all of the things in this room. If you had to make this TV and know how to do that, if you had to know how to make this table, if you know how to make this camera, not alone, let alone work it, right?
Yeah.
But you get to have the knowledge of many in one sitting when you're sitting in a mastermind with people. You get to have the mentorship of someone who's already made the mistakes and put in the time to have the experience when you are mentored. And you get to take something that has already been honed and optimized and proved to be successful when you use a model. So if you combine mentoring, masterminding, and modeling, then to me, you are harnessing the knowledge of thousands or millions, and you're compressing the experience curve that you would otherwise have to take and invest your time in into such a finite period. Whereas if you didn't do that, it could take you years, or you might never learn it all, right?
And you guys should just rewind and watch that part just again. In terms of when you were starting out, and this was probably only 10 years ago.
I'm only 25, so let's see, that was... No.
So when you were starting out X amount of years ago, what was the mistakes that you made? And then when you made that mistake, how did you overcome it? Mentally, psychologically, what was the process?
I think that when I was first starting out, I was too aggressive in negotiating. I was too focused on myself and what I was going to get out of any given deal, and I wasn't as concerned about partners, the customer, people on the other side, the competition, and time and experience has taught me that the thing that will get you the farthest is actually taking the time to be nice and not take all of the meat off the bone when you're negotiating, and look for a situation that benefits everyone, to really focus on your customer and the people that you're doing business with, to be sure that it's good for them and not just good for you. That to me would be the single biggest thing that I think I've learned, and the single biggest mistake that I made when I was starting out.
Well, you're definitely making up for it by the amount of value that you're giving right now.
Thank you. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, I really like what you said, giving without expectation. And you had one or two guests here, and they were just as giving as you were, because during the break time, I went and had some meaningful conversations, and I was just blown away. There was a person here that you had doing $300 million a year, very openly. Here's my phone number, here's my Skype, whatever, here's my email address. And I was looking at him thinking, what? And it was just really, really...
and that's it. He mentioned, and I share this philosophy, is that it's be nice to people, hang around with successful people, give. And so he just happened to be in London when he saw that I was doing this, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm here, you should come." And he's like, "Okay, I'll come." And he gets nothing out of that other than the benefit of being here. But I'll tell you what, because he's smart and he did give a lot of value, it's very likely that people will follow up and that some deal might come, or they'll introduce him to somebody. So it's the most evil, scheming, manipulative thing you can do, is to be nice to other people. It's just a wonderful thing.
I like it. So we covered, say, 6 figures, lessons to learn, mistakes. What about your first 7 figures?
It wasn't really any different for me. He pointed out, he thought that the first was hard work, and the next million was mindset. And I think mindset is really, really critical. I couldn't track to a thing that said, "Oh, I had a big breakthrough, and this is when I knew I could make $1 million." I didn't find it. That doesn't sound good. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say I didn't find it that hard, but actually I should say that. I didn't find it that hard because I didn't know I couldn't. So I think that I was too stupid to realize that it was hard to do that, and therefore I just kept going forward and doing that. But I've always looked for leverage, even from when I got my real estate license, saying I don't want to go out and do onesie-twosie houses. I want to find developers that have multiple houses. So I'm always about the leverage. And so I think because of that, it was easier for me to do because I didn't have to learn that leverage and partnerships was necessary, because I've always liked partnerships. I like people. So that's a little different. But that would be, I guess that would be, if I had to say, the distinction that happened somewhere along the way was, rather than doing everything myself, I went and got partners. And I went out and partnered with other people, not only in my business, but outside too, like partners that would help the business, even though they didn't have an ownership interest.
So I really appreciate that, because one of the reasons why I came here, and I told you, I've been very fortunate to generate multiple 8 figures, but even at that stage, I'm just being very transparent. I came in and the first thing I said in front of everyone, which is, the truth is, I'm just feeling very demotivated. I came to a stage where obviously I made money, then I wanted to make $1 million. Then, like my mentor, Ryan Dias and Eben Pagan and all these guys, it's like, no, 10 million is the magic number. And then I did that once, twice, 3 times. And then I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? Like, I have all these assets, and there was a part of me that just, I think I just didn't have clarity, or I was complacent, lazy, whatever you want to say, feeling bloated, everything under the sun. And here, it's almost like I've just been re-energized, because I'm like, wow, like almost like 90% of the things that you shared, I had never heard of any of those things. I mean, unbelievable. Even the stuff on leverage, how the leverage from Richard Branson's podcast. You want to talk a little bit about that, how you would take one piece of action and then leverage it multiple ways?
Yeah, I called it butterfly leverage. Like, you have the butterfly effect where they flick the wings and it causes a tornado. And I think it's just that if you are looking past the immediate, they call it multi-order thinking. So one of the models that I think can really serve you is if you are not a first order thinker. If you're a first order thinker, then you're thinking about only the thing at hand. But if you are a fifth order thinker, you're thinking about the thing at hand and the causation and the opportunities that exist immediately outside of that, and then outside of that, and outside of that, and outside of that. And if you think 5 levels down the road, it's like a chess player. The chess player that's looking at the current board and not thinking about what are all of the options is going to lose the game. And the farther down the road that you can think, the more talented you're going to be. And chess is a game of strategy, as is life, as is business. So I think that one who thinks farther down the road is going to do better than one who does not. And the Branson thing was like that. We thought, okay, we would like to have Richard Branson because he would elevate the event, and he would be great for our people because he's a very aspirational figure for, I think, anyone who's an entrepreneur. He's built $12 billion companies. That's pretty impressive. And so we thought first about how do we get him, and then once we had the agreement for him to appear, it was, what can we do with this that will serve as many people in our audience or our audiences as possible, and will also help liquidate the cost of having him, and will also perhaps even turn into profit. And so the very first thing was, we have him at the event. That helps to sell tickets. Well, first, we have him at the event. That keeps people happy at the event, makes them very excited. The second thing was that it'll probably help us sell tickets. The third thing was, if we know that it might help sell tickets, how can we specifically have it do that? And that was by having everyone sending out a picture with the speakers that were speaking, and Richard Branson and the other speakers underneath them, saying that these people were a featured speaker, and then they would be on stage clearly with these amazing people. That made everyone say, oh, we should send that out again. That was 7 figures plus of additional revenue for us that we know specifically we wouldn't have gotten had we not had Branson there. Then we said, okay, what's going to happen? How is that going to be executed? And he likes to be interviewed more than he likes to just give a speech. So we decided, I have the podcast, Business Lunch. I'll interview him for that. And then we'll do that as an interview, not just at TNC, but an interview for Business Lunch on the podcast. And then I went and negotiated the ability to have the interview appear on the podcast. So 2 wins there. One is, at the event, we put behind him and me on stage and the other screens that this was Business Lunch. So I got thousands and thousands of downloads and subscribers from the people that were at the event, and the people who are watching the recordings after, I'll get more, right? Then that helps the podcast. The next thing that we did was we said, okay, he's going to be there, so let's have a meet and greet. And then we had the meet and greet reception with him. We sold tickets to that at $15,000 a pop. And we had several people that came, about 20 as I recall, or 30. And that generated tremendous income and actually generated enough for us to pay the donation to Virgin Unite, which is what's required to have Sir Richard Branson come out. And then just looking at like all the ways down the road from there that we could monetize and benefit. And obviously then having him there, we get to use that on the podcast. We've had Richard Branson as a guest on the podcast. Well, that makes other people want to be on the podcast. We've had Richard Branson at our event. That makes other people who are famous want to come to the event. It's just orders of thinking down the road from the very first thing. Hey, let's just have this guy talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, that was one of the big takeaways I got from here as well, which is, how do you take an action today and then think 5 steps or 10 steps, and in this case you can leverage this for the next 5 or 10 years.
Yes.
Because now you're duplicating your model and buying up other events companies, which we should talk about, because I have an events company and I'm more than open for a deal somewhere down the line. We've done over 150 events and masterminds all over the world in all the different countries. And but I never utilized celebrities like you were talking about. And I was just thinking to myself, whoa. And then I nudged Kieran. I think he got quite a few nudges next to me. I was thinking to myself, are you kidding me? Sponsorships. I've never sold sponsorships to my events. And I was like, that's like two things I could do to easily add at least $1 million to $3 million minimum on these events. So
we liquidate the entire cost of our event with our sponsors. So every ticket sale then is profit.
Yeah, and I was really shocked. I thought you would have 200, maybe 300 sponsorships. You said you have 5,000 or something?
We're a little over 5,000 in our pipeline. So our pipeline is the number of sponsors we have relationships with that we're reaching out to for all of our different events.
So that is that's very attractive to an investor. And you talked a lot and you showed endless case studies, which was just absolutely fab, as to how you're taking companies, sometimes selling them and buying companies for $0 of your own money. If you could say, what would you say are the top 2 to 3 components? You talked about MRR and ARR when it comes to selling the business, because a lot of the times, when we get into business, I personally did, for the first, I'd say 9 years, maybe before coming into your world, probably, only the last year, I was like, okay, I need to actually learn about exiting, because I've got a amazing cash flow business and it's healthy in millions of dollars in profits, but it's me. It's not like someone's going to come and say, hey, I'll give you 5 or 10. And in your case, you're talking about
I will
50.
give you $5 or $10 for it right now.
Oh my gosh.
No. Cash money. I have it on me.
No, but you were talking about 10x, 14x, which is just absolutely incredible. So what does it take for someone who's running a cash flow business, the influencer, guru, thought leader, expert, blah, 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 and you're going to advise them? What would you say are the top few things that someone needs to be focused on?
In terms of exiting a business?
Yeah.
The very first thing I think is that the business can't be you. You need a brand that is independent of yourself. A lot of people start out a business, particularly in like if they're speaking or training on something or e-learning, that it's their brand. So Tony Robbins is the brand with Tony Robbins, right? That's a challenge. And how do you build a brand outside of yourself? That's the very first thing, to be sure that you actually have a brand that sits outside of you. Then you have to imbue it with a personality. And we have a process for doing that called the Character Diamond that develops the brand to actually have the same attributes that a character in a movie would have. And we know that there are 4 different points for a character in a movie to be a successful character. They can't be perfect all the time. They have to have a fault. They have to have something they'll live or die for. They have to have a quirk, right? That's what makes a character interesting and multidimensional. And so that, I think, is important. Then having a culture is becoming more important. Developing a customer experience is very important. Having a competitive advantage that creates a moat that stops other competitors from being able to come in. Having a unique value chain that delivers value to the customer throughout. And then you get into kind of nitty gritty. It's better if you have good accounting and good legal, so that the documentation, there's commercial due diligence, legal due diligence, financial due diligence, CDD, FDD, LDD, right? You've got to have, you're going to go through that when you sell. So knowing that that's coming, you need to have your act in order going in. So your entity documents formed and up to date, your employment agreements, all that sort of stuff. No litigation, taxes filed, proof that taxes are filed. taxes filed accurately, financial statements, preferably audited, but if not audited, reviewed. Then management. You can't be the only person in the company. Even if you have a brand, if you're the only person in the company and you go away, then there's huge risk for an investor that comes in. And everything about what you're going to get for the company is about de-risking the investment for the investor. So you have to think, what are the things that would create risk? Something happens to you, that goes away. So we need more than you. We need management, and we need bench strength. We need a level of presence of people. We need those people to know what to do, but we also need new people to know what to do. So SOPs, standard operating procedures, should be in place. Processes should be in place. And then customer dependence. Is there one customer that represents more than 20% of the business? That would be really important. Do you have multiple customers or only one customer or a few? The more that you have, the better. Is it multiple? Is the revenue something that you have to generate over and over and over, or does it keep coming in automatically because it's on some sort of subscription? So it's monthly recurring MRR or annual recurring ARR. And those are the things that will really impact what you'll receive for the business and putting it in a good position to sell.
I mean, you could talk for the next 5 hours. I'll just shut up. All right? Are you guys with me so far? I mean, it's just like a fire hose of really cool really cool stuff. I'm going to ask you this. When you see, obviously you coach very high level entrepreneurs, people that are making a lot of money. When you see someone making, say, 7-8 figures, and they trying to become this, 9-figure entrepreneur, they're trying to build and to sell, what are the core skills, disciplines, behaviors one needs to adopt and embody for them to get to that next level?
I think that a lot of it is overcoming limiting beliefs. So you have to be focused on identifying the things that are holding you back. And I think that that it's really smart to have someone to coach you in that. I don't do coaching, I only do investing. So I'll coach my investments, right? But so I'm saying that with no agenda to have coaching. But I think that it's really important to get around successful people as well, other entrepreneurs who have been who have already seen the path, because they say that the body will never go where the mind has not already been. And if you think about that, then that means you can't go to be a business that's doing 9 figures if your mind has never been there. And so you need someone who will help guide you to that place, to take you there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you want to sit down and take lots of notes again? No, I took 2 days of notes. I'm going to ask you a couple of other questions that's just been in my mind. Mm-hmm. Maybe I didn't ask, maybe I did ask. But in terms of winter coming, recessions, all of these, how do you view these things? Because is it from heck, I need to protect my wealth, or is it, no, I'm going all guns blazing, or is it, I'm going to stash cash, ready to buy? How do you view these things that's happening?
Well, I think everything in balance. So I think that wealth preservation is what people who are wealthy are most focused on, which is a surprise to a lot of people, because they think wealthy people should be ready to invest all their money with them. But that's not really the game. Once you get to a certain point, it's about how do I not lose my capital? And Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, says we consistently win we win by consistently being not stupid, right? And I think that's a good way to think about it. So whatever comes is going to come. To worry about it doesn't make any sense to me. To plan for it makes some sense, but what I know is that every change brings with it opportunity. And so if you're aware that every change brings opportunity, and you're attuned to spotting the opportunity, and then you are around people who will help encourage you to take advantage of it, then that's never a threat. Recession is an opportunity. Recession is an opportunity to reward the smart and punish the not smart, right? So be the smart. And it will bring all new opportunities to invest, for new services. That it's just, there isn't anything that, to me, you should be afraid of going forward. So being prepared by knowing that those opportunities come, having cash to be able to take advantage of opportunities when they come, I think is important. So to me, it's a balance. I think that you have money that's set aside that for the future, you have money that's set aside for the present, you have money that's set aside just to spend the money. It's good to have all those things.
Yeah, Roland, in terms of partnerships, because you mentored one of my mentors who, when I met him, he was doing maybe 8 figures, and now he's doing well over 9 figures, and he, it's large credit is due to you. What kind of stuff did you have to do with him as a partner? Because you know, when I started talking to you a few days ago, I was talking about legal and financials and all of this stuff. But I know that one of my mentors that you mentored and that you work still very closely with him. He didn't have that background, so you came in as a partner. Like, what happened there?
I helped. I advised for a few years, just kind of helping out. No, not in a formal or paid relationship. And when an opportunity came for me to be able to invest, then he suggested that I come and do that, and I did, and that's that. And so I have brought the experience that I have in business into his business, which he's a super smart guy. He just hadn't been exposed to a lot of the business side, and obviously wasn't trained in accounting or law like I was. So there was a good mix of skills, which is what makes a good partnership. You don't want to bring somebody into a partnership that's just like you, because that's going to be that, right? You want to bring somebody that has complementary skills.
So do you recommend, say, for example, myself, and this is where the selfish part of me comes in, because this advice is purely for my nature only, and for people looking to scale to 8-9 figures, but would you recommend someone like me, should I go and learn accounting, taxes, legal, structuring, tax optimization, all of those things, or is it best I partner up or hire? What would you recommend?
I was just talking to Francis about that here because he said he just invested in all this business education. And I said, well, what kind of business education is? It's like, you know, how to do the legal and the entities and all that stuff. And it's like, you can hire that. There are people that do that. So if you have a partner that knows that, that's a bonus. But you can get lawyers. You can hire business strategists. Like, everything can be hired. Ideally, you are an organizer of resources as an entrepreneur. And the resources include the physical assets that you've got, the intangible assets in terms of intellectual property, and the human assets in terms of the people. And any missing piece can be acquired. So you don't have to worry about all that other stuff, because you just have to be smart enough to know how to receive the information and make decisions from the people who are educated in those things that could take years to learn, right?
Yeah. One of the first things I came to you and I said in a very not so happy mood. Now I'm happier, but when I first came in,
you do seem significantly happier over the last 2 days.
Yes, the last 2 days,
Smile.
everything has just boosted up for me. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Why I came up to you and I said, hey, you know, this happened and I feel like a failure and I can't believe I was so stupid, blah blah blah. And you just looked at me and like, no, it's learning. And I was like, he didn't listen to me, did he? But how do you view failure? How do you view big setbacks? You know. When you invest, I'm sure you've made some mistakes in the past. Now you don't make any mistakes whatsoever.
Never, not a single one. I'm absolutely perfect.
That was very clear to everyone. You have a flat, amazing record now, but in the past you did make some mistakes. And when you hit those big mistakes, how did you overcome those? What was the perspective that you carried forward so you could keep moving?
Yeah, well, first off, I make mistakes all the time. And to me, it's just, I know I have the certainty that no matter what happens, I will go forward and I will be successful ultimately. And so with that certainty, the mistakes and the failures don't scare me and don't affect me. I mean, I might have a bad day and be like, you know, I just lost a bunch of money. I'm not happy about that. But I'm also, that's just part of the day, right? I have so many other things. And I think the fact of actively practicing gratitude, which sounds woo-woo, but I think in the morning, here, what are the 3 things that I'm going to be grateful for today? And I'll pick something that you might not think that you would pick, that you just take for granted, like I can walk, because a lot of people can't. I can see, because a lot of people can't. And that sounds Tony Robbins-y, but to me, it's really important because it puts in perspective that it doesn't matter. You know, you start from nothing, you can always make it. That's a thermostat. We operate, to me, mentally like a thermostat. So if your thermostat is set at, I'm a millionaire, then you'll be a millionaire. And it's going to be kind of hard for you to get past that, but it's going to be really easy for you to get back to it if you lose it. Yeah. But if you've never seen $1 million or 10 million, right, then it's going to be really hard because you're not sure how to see it. You're certainly not sure how to get to it. But if you've been there, you already done that. How hard would it be for you to make $1 million now?
Not that hard.
Right? Not hard at all. But the truth is that it's not that hard to make 100 million or $1 billion. It's just, now luck is going to play a lot of factor there too, right? Yeah. It's so when you're in the right place at the right time, that that's a success story. When you're in the right place at not the right time, then that might be a failure. And so you just think about reorganizing and recommitting to do the things that you know will bring you to the success, and you'll always get there.
Yeah, these 2 days has helped me recommit.
That's so cool.
Recommit myself as a diehard entrepreneur. So
I love it.
I do want to say thank you. I do have a couple of friends here. Do you guys have any questions, any personal things you want to ask? You know how Roland is. He said he'll answer anything. Kieran, any questions?
I wouldn't say questions, but I would again say thank you for the past 2 days.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's really kind of expanded my thinking, and yeah, really amazing 2 days. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we got a couple of guys behind. They're just dancing up and down. Yes.
I'd say the same. It's like really opened my mind. Like this was like the block I've always had, because like I said, we know marketing, we know sales, but we never know the business side because we never studied it. We just came across marketing, so it's good insight and looking to develop it more. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know, I was outside. I was talking to Alt here on the camera, and I was like, if I knew this 5 years ago, I'd be at least like $10 million, $20 million cash richer. I'm like, where the heck has Roland been all my life? But so thank you so much. And this
my
is
pleasure.
super important that, you know, because even in today's marketing world, business world, everyone's so obsessed with like Instagram and looking perfect and all of this stuff. And then there's very few people that's teaching how to build a real business, how to add value, how to sell it for multiple exits. And it's funny because on the sales data, you know, this event, warroommastermind.com, scale, leverage, exit, grow, and scale.
Yeah.
On it, you know, it said something along the lines of, very few people know this information, and even fewer people teach it. And at the end of 2 days, I came up to you and I said, Roland, you were advertised exactly on the tin. So I really just want to say huge thank you to you and Diana. So
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot.
Appreciate it.
If
Thank you.
someone wants to find you on the podcast, what's the
Podcast is Business Lunch, and we're on iTunes and Spotify and all those places. And Roland Frasier, I'm on social everywhere under Roland Frasier.
yeah. And for this event, what is it? Warroommastermind.com.
Warroom Mastermind.
Warroom Mastermind. And maybe you just want to cover. I have. I'm going to send this out to my own mastermind members. I have about 150 of them at my high level inner circle mastermind. So if you guys are in America, and they just launched in UK and Europe, which me and some of my friends are going to be joining. So what's War Room about? Maybe just give like a 2-minute.
It's really just, it is a collection of entrepreneurs who are getting together to double and triple their business, to figure out how they're going to get back. But I mean, more than anything, it follows those 3 M's. It's to mentor each other, to give, to mastermind with each other, to talk about what's working and how we can do better, and to find the models that are working so that we can replicate them and increase our success.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. There should be links down below. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go to shaqir.com/podcast.